You forget we have a new intro.
That was quick. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Round Table, the Friday edition of Drinks, Shows, and Storytelling. The Round Table. I'm Richie Byrne. With me, as always,
Mark Riccadonna.
All right, we got to talk about a couple of things really quick. We have great guests.
Yes.
I'm really excited about our guests, and I'm ill-prepared. Here's what happened. Mark had phone issues, cell phones, and he
Still do.
And I'm not going to lie to you, buddy. These were guys you knew, you got them. And in my head, I'm like, Mark's going to take lead. I'm going to chill out because we had a big day yesterday, which we're going to talk about. And then you wrote Tom and I at about a little over an hour ago, and you're like, hey, guys, I'm having problems. I'm going to make it, blah, blah, blah. So I run home. I was out. I run home, and I even called Tom, and I go, listen, I should be on 2:30, 2:45, the latest. And he left. Mark, I'm thinking we're not on till 3. I'm thinking. I even thought that's right. I wonder why Tom left. I didn't mean that to be funny. Now I'm doing research on these guys, which I'm really excited to talk to them because I've done research now. And I'm like, and then you wrote at like 2:25, you ready to go, hey, I'm home. I made it. And I'm like, all right, good. I'm like walking around, gets over.
In your slippers.
How are you?
I wish we had a way that we could turn your camera on without you knowing. So we could just turn on the camera and there you are in your slippers and robe, sipping coffee.
Dude, you don't want to know. So I think it's funny that we started late today, and I'd really love to blame you for it, but you're not to blame.
I made it. I can't believe it. Well, so my phone just kicked me off the network. It said that I don't have a connection to any network. I took my phone in. The guy says he fixed it. It was a SIM card issue. I come home. I'm on the phone. I'm on a phone with the corporate gig from Texas, and they just boots me off the network again. So I have to drive back to the Sprint store.
Wow.
Start talking to him. I realize what time it is. I'm like, can you just get just so it works?
Yeah. Also, I know you have gigs all weekend.
Yeah. So I'm gonna.
You need a phone when you have gigs. You cannot be without a phone. Which is again, and let's bring it up again, which is why I'm really glad we're moving the show to Tuesdays.
Yes.
Because Fridays are just too hard with everything
going on.
Things opening up and comedy, and we're going to be moving Drinks, Jokes, and Storytelling to Mondays. And we're going to be moving the Round Table to Tuesdays, and I can't wait.
Yeah.
In the beginning of June, I don't have the exact dates on me, but it's going to be great right after Memorial Day weekend. Yeah. And I'm thrilled about that. But let's talk about yesterday really quick and then get our guests out.
Yes.
How about I'm going like 100 miles an hour here? Because I'm so
I know. I love it. I love a adrenaline shot in Richie. It's a different animal. You're usually so laid back.
Yes, I'm on speed. Bucket list, actually, we need to talk. One of our guests was involved with the movie Bucket List. Did you know that?
I did not know that. This will be very cool. We'll have to bring Tom up.
But yesterday we did we hosted a benefit for the Robert Louis Stevenson School in Manhattan. They raised money for their school, and one of my friends from the Dr. Oz show, her daughter goes there, and she called me and she said, "We're having a fundraiser. It's virtual. We'd love you to host it." And I said, "Tina, I got a better idea. Have me and my boys do it. Let's do Drinks, Shows, and Storytelling around it." And they ended up wanting to do that, and I think we killed it, man.
I had so much fun.
You know me, I can't wait. Anyone who really knows me knows that I'm like the first, this sucked, that sucked. Like people, this show was funny. I'm like, it sucked. But this, for me to go, wow, we killed it. It was great. They were great. The people.
I loved having a script. Like we had a script, but we're allowed to riff around it and make jokes.
Cool. Except
and it made
your lines.
Yeah, but it ended up, they thought it was a bit when I said, I'm Richie Byrne.
I know. I read your lines at the
end. I forgot all about that. I just had so much fun, and it was so cool. They had great guests. Who was on? It was Montel Williams, Dr. Drew, Dr. Oz.
Dr. Oz. Rosanna Scotto.
What a great show. Yeah. What a great benefit. All the parents were so much fun. I thought I was going to hate the breakout room thing.
Oh, it was me too. I was dreading. I was like, well, I know by 7:00 we're done with the breakout room. And that was the most fun part of the whole show.
Yeah. We went in and just got to meet parents, and they were all cool and funny. And
yeah. And we don't want to forget Julian, one of the students.
Yeah.
Is a magician, and he actually performs. He performs in Times Square, and he came on and he did some great card tricks. We had a lot of fun. It was really like Drinks, Jokes, and Storytelling. I mean, it really was,
It felt like an extended episode. Yeah. It was really nice.
So we want to thank everyone at Robert Louis Stevenson for inviting us, and all the hard work they did and all the work Tom did. It was just great.
Tom crushed it.
Do we have to move? Are we
yeah, we're going to switch over when we bring out our guests. Which
Tom's little way of letting me know. All of a sudden, the scroll went. Rather than Tom jumping and go, guys, we got to switch. It's like, hey, everybody participate in the
So when we come back, anybody who's on Facebook, what you do, go to twitch.tv/drinksjokes. It'll pop up. It'll just pop up, and you click on the link. And when we come back, we are going to be on with some really great guests. We have Charlie and Marty Nadler, who, along with Gary Marino, who's an old friend of mine, and they have the show that they do, Happier Days, and it's so cool that it's a father-son comedy team. Like that to me is like, how cool.
This is why I'm glad you made it, because I needed you here to talk about all this, but go ahead. We're going to switch over.
Let's switch over. So, hey, all you Facebook nerds, switch over to Twitch. Come on. I know you know how to do it. All right, now we got rid of all those nerds on Facebook. How you guys doing?
What's happening?
What's up?
So I guess let's go around. We got a nice sized group. And Tom, are you going to come out and join us? Come and have some fun with us. Let's go around with the guests and ask. Let's let you introduce yourselves, and maybe that way the people viewing will get to know how everybody knows each other.
All right.
Let's start with Gary.
All right. Gary Marino, Boston, Massachusetts. PPW, producer, performer, whatever. And host of the Happier Days with the Nadler show.
That's very
among many other fine shows, as you know, including Gaelic versus Garlic with you and Tommy Briscoe.
Real quick, where can people they want to hire this show after they watch? Where are they going to be able to find you so they can hire the Happier Days?
Harmon Marino Live is my company. It's Harmon HARMON Marino Live, and you can catch us on the web, and it shows right on there. You can see and read all about it, and as well as my other shows that I have, World Gone Crazy Comedy Band, among others. It's all there, so you can get in touch with me. Gary@HarmonMarino.com is the email.
I guess Marty got nervous and he dropped off. He got a little nervous. He had to follow that.
Nothing makes Marty nervous at this point.
Well, let's bring out Charlie.
Hey, Charlie Nadler, writer, comedian out of North Adams, Massachusetts. There's my dad. I was going to say my other credit is son of Marty Nadler, the legend.
And you were also lived in the wonderful Astoria, Queens. So,
yep, long time Queens, long time LA. Decided to go to the country for a while, which has been nice.
I love it. All right, let's go over to Marty. Marty.
Yes, I'm Marty Nadler. I'm a comedy writer, a lot of sitcom, some on-set writing for movies. I'm a performer. Mark, I'm sorry to hear about your phone problem and you being thrown off of a network. I've been thrown off of a couple of networks.
Yeah, but yours mattered.
but mine matters. But yeah, and it's just great to be here. I'm sort of semi-retired, but every once in a while I get myself involved with some projects. And our show that we do, my son and I and Gary do, is one of the things I'm very happy.
Oh, he just cut out on us one more time. He'll be back.
He wasn't that happy.
He must have Mark's system.
See, with Sprint. So you guys do a show. How did the show come about? Like, who came up with the idea, and how did it evolve into the three of you on stage?
Yeah.
So, Charlie, you take it, and then I'll take it from where I met you.
Yeah, I'll tee it up for Gary. So we started. I knew that Gary was producing some shows on the Vineyard where I was born and raised, and so I hit him and his business partner up. We're doing the shows there, and I knew my dad was going to be around too, and he's obviously a stand-up too, and I thought that it would be fun to just do some time together. And I was like, we can both get on the same bill. We should try like some kind of duo thing. We'll do a little time up top. We'll do some solo sets, and that was really just going to be a one-nighter, and that's what led us to meet Gary.
That's right.
Nice.
And my partner on the Vineyard in my club out there called me out of the blue, and he said, Gary, the Nadlers want to do a show at our club. And I said, what the heck is a Nadler? I had no idea. And he said that they're from the Vineyard. They're legendary. He was the head writer for Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley and all these shows. And him and his son do a father-son duo together, which is unheard of.
That's so cool.
If you know anything about me, Mark, right? I'm the guy who, like, anything out of the box, I'm all over it, So I looked up, naturally, I looked up both of them and couldn't believe, the credits and the careers that they had. So I booked them sight unseen, which I never do. And it was the biggest night we had out there. They obviously have a hardcore following on the Vineyard. The next morning, or it was a few days later, I didn't even realize that Marty was staying in the hotel in the inn that I was staying in. And me and my partner are sitting like on the porch out there talking about the show. And who pops out of one of the bedrooms but Marty? And we started peppering him, all these stories from working in Hollywood, from the Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley, the Odd Couple days. And he just had us in stitches for like 4 hours with these friggin' stories. Talk about inside of baseball. Talk about like shows we all grew up with from the time we were puppies. And here's Marty telling me all these stories. So we had the idea right then and there. We said, Happier Days with the Nadlers. That's going to be the show. And the way we do it is I host. Charlie comes up. Now, Charlie got it straight from the tap. He's definitely his father's son. Charlie comes out and does 15, 20, and then Marty comes out and does a solo set. Then the two do their act together as a duo. And then I head out into the audience for the last third of the show with a mic, and we do Q&A and all the stories, not only Marty's stories of working in Hollywood, but Charlie's stories of having a front row seat to all of this stuff, and pretty good too. And I think the guys will agree. Is that not part of the best part of the show? Is that Q&A? Right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. I just want to add to what Charlie was saying about him and I getting to do this show. Of course, I was doing stand-up for years, and I did a stand-up show on the Vineyard, mostly for fundraisers, for different organizations, the high school track team. And Charlie would come, and then I was doing a show actually in a hotel in the summer, like once a week. And Charlie would come with his friends and see me. And then after he graduated from BU, he went to LA and was doing stand-up. And I came out to see him for the first time. I was so nervous to go and see him an open mic because I'm not going to lie to the kid. If I'm sitting there and I'm not laughing, I'm not going to say, you're not good. I'm going to say like, well, maybe it's generational. I'm not really getting it. It's okay. But thank God he was funny. I was sitting there laughing. I said, I'm so happy. I wasn't going to lie to you, but I'm so happy you're doing this. So, and then then, catching up to what he said, he called me one day and said, Dad, I want to do a show with you. Because he was doing shows on the Vineyard too after that. He was doing benefits for the youth center at the Y and doing his own shows there. But we never did them together. And then he called me and he says, Dad, I want to do a show with you. And it was like, most of the time you get a call from your kid, Dad, I'm in jail.
This was worse.
You got to come bail me out, But so I was very touched, and it's actually, I must say, it's a pretty good show. It's a good show. We have a lot of fun.
Yeah, we do.
One thing that we do that hopefully we can continue to do for a while, but it gets harder and harder to come up with it, is we on stage share a secret from my childhood that the other doesn't know, and we don't tell the other about it. So like I'll tell my dad something in front of like 100, 200 people that he's never heard before. And it's always like pretty terrible, like something that like obviously a teenager wouldn't want their parent to know. But then my dad's thing will be worse every time. Like it'll
well, let's just give him one sample. The first show I turned, and the audiences loves it because they're hearing this, I turned to my son and I said, I stole money from you. And he said, what? I said, it was your bar mitzvah weekend. And I didn't take any of your bar mitzvah money, but I needed money for the family. They were coming onto the Vineyard. I needed taxi cab cash and everything. So I took the savings bonds that people gave you when you were born and I cashed them in. And Charlie said, what? How much money? I said, it doesn't matter. You're never going to see this money again. So it doesn't matter. So they really like that one. And what did you tell me?
It doesn't matter.
Mine was like we had like a Playboy magazine once in the woods or something,
Well, that's right. You said it was. You said you used to read porn in your fort.
Yeah, it was like
7-year-old friend.
Yeah, we were like 10. It was like pretty young to have something terrible. But I mean, yours is always worse. And now I have to go to like real bad ones for our next show.
Yeah. Well, I got one for the next show, but I really had a bad one the second show. I told Charlie after his mom and I separated, I had an affair with one of his high school teachers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But then Charlie said he did too.
And Charlie said to me, which one? I said, check your grades. But you're right, Charlie. Mine is always worse than yours. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Marty, you're taking this crap way too seriously. You got
Now,
And then go ahead.
No, you go, Gary.
No, I was just thinking about the last show we did before the pandemic shut us down was in Peabody, Mass. At a Black Box Theater, and we're doing the Q&A session. Tell me if you remember this, guys. So a guy in the audience raises his hand and he asks Marty. He says, "What advice do you have after all your years in Hollywood for a budding filmmaker? My son is a filmmaker and he moved out to Los Angeles. And what advice do you have for a struggling filmmaker?" And Marty does this really, heartfelt. He's like, "Listen, he's your son. You love him. You got to support him. Just give him your love and support." And then Marty goes, "How old is he, by the way?" And the guy goes, 46.
Yeah.
Marty goes, "Yeah, forget any of that I just told you." We thought the kid was like 21. He was freaking 46.
I did.
Now, Charlie, did you think about, when did you start to think you wanted to do stand-up?
That's a good question. I mean, I went to film school at Boston University. I always wanted to write, and I still write and develop stuff, but I was like very shy. I was very pretty much the opposite. My dad hated public speaking, through college, through my early 20s. But enough people just liked my writing on social media and encouraged me to try it. And one year I made a New Year's resolution when I was 25 to try it that year. And it took to November. It took 11 months to do it. But wow. I knew I'd regret it if I didn't do it. And then you know how it is. Just you get one laugh and you're hooked for the rest of your life.
Comedy's drugs. It's
Right.
totally drugs. You get hooked.
It is. It is.
You can't. You chase that first laugh the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought Richie was going to say something.
Well, I think I don't want to get too deep, but I think it's why a lot of comics have addiction problems to begin with. They're drawn to something. It is an addiction. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree.
So now, Charlie, when you were growing up and with your father, I know that every kid goes through the stages of love it. Anything their dad does is the greatest. And then all of a sudden it becomes whatever dad does is stupid. And then, and then later, whatever dad does is great again. Growing up, like through high school, were you so proud and excited to be like, yeah, all those shows you guys watch when you skip school?
Yeah. Well, my experience was interesting because my dad was, obviously really successful even before I was born. And then he wanted me to have a pretty normal childhood. So a lot of my sort of formative growing up years, we were on the vineyard and he was not as active in the industry. So I kind of had that regular childhood. And I mean, I knew that he was the head writer on Happy Days, and like intellectually I was like, wow, that's crazy. But it wasn't like this famous person that was like gone all the time. But then he started doing on-site writing for Gary when I was in high school. So I kind of got a better taste of what that world was like later. So I would say like, it just seemed like a distant thing that I didn't think I wanted anything to do with, especially because I said I was like kind of like a nerdy, shy, awkward person. So I think it sort of like went in waves of like some weird thing that didn't seem real. Then it was cool to hang out on set with him. And then the genes took over.
And then Marty, you got to tell Richie the story you were telling me in the green room before we started about being fogged in and meeting somebody else from the Bronx.
Okay. Yeah. Mark asked me, we were talking about where I was from, the Bronx, and I said, I'm glad I grew up there. And I said, I actually met Joe DiMaggio.
Whoa.
Wow.
The Yankee Clipper on Martha's Vineyard at the airport.
Okay. Wow.
And I was a Yankee fan all my life, except now, of course, Charlie being in BU, he went to BU when the Red Sox won the World Series and the Patriots won the Super Bowl. So now I root for the New England teams, those teams for him.
How could you do that, Marty?
Well, I'll tell you, I told Charlie, you can't tell any of my friends from the Bronx I do this because they'll put a hit on me. I mean, I just don't say anything. But here I am. I was a big Joe DiMaggio fan. I'm in the airport on the Vineyard. I'm going to New York to work on a show. They fly me in for 3 days, and then I go back to the Vineyard. I'm a consultant on a half-hour comedy show. So I'm at the airport, and I see in the corner, like Mr. Coffee. I go, well, who? It can't be Jamal. It can't be him. What's he doing on the Vineyard? And then I'm online checking in. The guy in front of me says, have you seen DiMaggio? You see him in the corner? I said, is that really him? I go, yeah. So I had to meet him, and the fog lifted, and we're going out to the plane. I skip up next to him. I go, Mr. DiMaggio, my name is Marty Nadler. I was born in the Bronx, but I live on the Vineyard now. And I've been a fan all my life. And, it's just great to meet you. And he said to me, are you going to the Bronx today? I said, no, I'm going to Manhattan. He goes, well, good. We both got out of the Bronx. And I didn't ask him for an autograph. I didn't talk about Maryland. I did all the right things. Right. And then at baggage claim, he was getting his golf clubs. I was getting my bag, and he shook my hand. He said, it's nice to meet you. And it was really a great moment. It was a good moment.
Wow.
So awesome.
What year would it have been, Marty?
That was in the 84. Charlie was 10 days old.
Wow. Really?
Yeah. I got the call like 9 days after he was born. I got the call from CBS about, do I want to go to New York and work on a show?
And that was the last time I saw him until last week.
Yeah. Charlie, just be happy that it was for a writing gig and not for a pack of cigarettes like the other kids.
My dad went out for a writing gig.
Now, Marty, so you grow up in the Bronx. Walk us through the steps. How does somebody from the Bronx fast forward all of a sudden head writer of Happy Days.
It's funny. I was gonna ask you, were you friends with Gary Marshall in the Bronx? Did you know him as a kid or?
No, I didn't know Gary, but I got to know Penny. You know, Penny was a few years older than me, but Penny was actually a friend of my sister-in-law's.
Okay.
So what happened was, first of all, I always wanted to be in show business, but I was like 8 years old. I watched Danny Thomas and Jerry Lewis. I just wanted to be in show business, but you're right. I didn't know Penny then. I didn't know. I just wanted to be and to come from the Bronx and be in show business is like, you know, it's like a long trip. So basically, I went to theater school, and I found out I got my degree in theater at Ithaca College.
Okay.
And I found out I wanted to do stand-up rather than be an actor. So when I went to New York, I hung out at the Improv. And in the early 70s, late 60s, we were all there. Freddie Prinze, David Brenner, Steve Landesberg, Jimmy Walker. We were all starting together.
Okay.
Richard Lewis. And we were all friends, and we hung out. And then Penny, at that time, Gary's sister, Penny Marshall, she married Rob Reiner.
Right.
And he was meathead on All in the Family.
Thank you.
And they would come to New York, and they come to the Improv with my sister-in-law and brother, and they watched me perform. And they thought I was good, and they said to me, look, Marty, you know, Robin Penny said, if you ever come out to L.A., you know, we'll try to help you. We can't promise you anything, but, you know, we'd love to help you. So eventually, I left New York, went to Cincinnati to work on a local Cincinnati talk show in the morning. They wanted to put some comedy into it.
Fernwood Tonight?
No.
Wasn't that Cincinnati? Or is that
Toledo? No, that show. But anyway, it didn't work out. We weren't getting syndicated. And the producer, who was a college friend of mine, said, I could give you a first-class ticket back to New York, or I can give you a ticket out to L.A. And I was always avoiding L.A. But at that point, I was sitting there in the hotel in Cincinnati. I called Penny. I said, I'm thinking of coming out to L.A. And she went, yes, come. I'll pick you up. And she picked me up at the airport. I lived with Rob and Penny in North Hollywood at their house for 2 weeks. And then I got my own apartment a couple of blocks away. And they were trying to pitch me to Gary, but Gary didn't want to take any people he didn't know. He had his, you know, you have your crew of writers that you're comfortable with. But I met everybody at Robin. I would hang out. I would live in my apartment, but I'd hang out at Robin Penny's all the time. I met everybody in Hollywood, basically. Albert Brooks, Linda Ronstadt was going with him at the time. It was amazing. Wow. It was amazing. And then what happens is I met this guy, Dennis Klein, who was a very good writer out in L.A., and Gary knew him very well and wanted him to work on a show. And he said, no, I'm not, I don't want to work now. I'm tired. Why don't you try Marty Nadler? And Gary goes, Marty Nadler. Everyone's telling me Marty. He said, well, you're going to have to talk to him because I'm not doing it. I'm not, you know, and that was luck. That's where the luck comes in and timing. And Gary I wrote a spec All in the Family because I knew Rob, you know, could show it around. It was funny enough for Gary to say he read it. Gary read it, and then he hired me as his personal writer.
Marty, I mean to interrupt, but was he still doing Odd Couple at this point? Is this still the story Odd Couple?
He was doing Odd Couple.
Okay.
That was the show. He hired me to be on the Odd Couple as his personal joke writer. He was paying me out of his own pocket.
Wow.
And then he developed other shows, and he brought me up. He said, you're funny. I got to teach you how to write TV. I'll bring you up through the ranks. But right now, you're getting $95 a week. And I said, great. You know. And then he developed this other show. My audition was to come in and write backup scripts for a new show that he was developing. And we were working on the show at night for backup scripts. And he paired us off with all kinds of writers. It was like an audition. And then at 2:00 in the morning, he said, "Come with me, everybody." And we walked through the back alleys of Paramount. It was like being back in the Bronx. And we went into a sound stage, and it was a full orchestra. And he says, "I just want you to hear the song and for the show." And we hear Sunday, Monday, happy days. Tuesday, Wednesday, happy days. And it was amazing. And the show got sold. He hired me. And I was still an apprentice writer for the first 6 months. And then
I hate to interrupt you.
Huh?
Were you involved? I know a lot about this. Were you involved with the Love American Style episode that it started on? Right?
I was not.
Okay.
No, I was not involved with that.
Okay.
I was not involved. This was 1974 I came in.
Okay.
And Happy Days was just picked up. Like Gary wanted to have it picked up. And it was just a wonderful education. And I just ate, slept, and drank everything at Paramount. I was there for like 12 hours a day.
Wow.
And I had a great time.
Wow.
Man.
And then then I went from show to show.
Wow. And it's
You know what's
interesting.
amazing to me about that whole story? You know what's amazing about that whole story is that there was a writer out in Hollywood said, "I don't want to work right now, Marty. You take it."
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Could you imagine? Imagine in 2021.
Well, that's the break. That's called the break. You get a
Yeah, but
break.
nobody does that anymore. Nobody does that anymore, Marty. Nobody does that anymore. If you're lucky enough to get within arm's length of a writing gig on a TV show,
He's right.
you're blessed, right, guys?
Yep.
Oh yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, but I feel like oh no, go ahead.
Gary Marshall was the greatest.
Yeah. How long were you involved? How long were you at The Odd Couple? One season. How many seasons were you working on?
I did the last season and a half for Odd Couple, and then they wrapped it, and then Gary put me on Happy Days.
Wow.
As a Writers Guild contract writer. My first job, my first contract for $600 a week.
Wow. Okay.
And then I was on Happy Days for the first couple of seasons, and then they put me on
Laverne and Shirley.
when Laverne broke off, when we spun Laverne off, Penny wanted me on Laverne. But that was a great time in Hollywood. You know, the late 70s.
Was that okay with you? I mean, were you worried if Laverne and Shirley didn't hit that? Which I guess you really weren't that worried because I'm old enough to remember it, and I remember how huge Laverne and Shirley was just coming in. Like that show out the gate was huge just because it followed Happy Days. They were already established from Happy Days. So I guess it's a dumb question, but were you worried, hell, if I move to a new show and that show doesn't hit, do you go back to Happy Days? Do you know what I mean? Like, was there a worry of that or no?
No, there wasn't a worry about that for two reasons. One, I don't worry about stuff like that. I just, the thing I worry about is are people going to be nice to me? Am I going to have a fun time? But the other thing is, you got to understand, Penny picked me up at the airport. Yeah. I mean, she's a friend. And if she asks you to go and write her show, you do it. I'm not going to say, well, you guarantee me you're going to be a hit. You don't want to do that. And also, you're in Gary's camp. I mean, you're a Gary Marshall writer, which is one of the best positions to be in out there.
Yeah.
And Gary had 3 or 4 shows on, so you know. I
knew you were going to get right, but Laverne,
you figure out you're going to eat.
Well, plus, Marty, isn't it true that Rob and Penny probably didn't want you back on their couch, so they wanted to keep you employed and in your own apartment?
I was never allowed in their house again.
No.
Did you know that they would go on to film? Did you see that progression coming? But I mean, Penny too. Penny was a tremendous director.
Oh yeah. Well, she was very talented. She directed a couple of Lavernes.
Okay.
Yeah, you knew she was. Listen, she was very, very talented. She was the secretary on The Odd Couple to Oscar.
Right. Yeah, Moreno.
Myrna Turner. She was always very talented, Penny. So you knew.
I remember the episode too where Rob played her fiance.
Yes.
Yeah. And he had the fake wig, the fake hair, and all. It was funny.
That's right. I was there. I was there for that one.
Nobody in LA is real, not even me. He pulled his hair. I haven't seen that since I'm a little kid, but I remember that so clearly. It was so fun. Hey, Marty, when I guess because I was doing some research on you guys, I keep getting hit with different interviews from people from Happy Days, and one of the stories was Henry Winkler talking about when John Lennon came to the set. Were you there when John Lennon came to the set?
Oh my God. Well, here's what's interesting. I just read that Winkler said, I met Lennon on the Odd Couple set.
Oh, wow.
So what I think happened was I met John Lennon and Julian, his son.
Right. Julian
when we did the show, we would read the script on Monday, the table reading, and rehearse the show all week like a play. And on Wednesdays and Thursdays, we'd see the run-throughs and then do little rewritings here and there. So it's a closed set. And then Friday, the audience comes in and sits in the bleachers. But on Wednesday, we came in. This is Odd Couple. And there were two shadows up in the bleachers, two bodies. And we just figured who the heck that could be. Maybe it's a network exec or it's a studio exec. And we're watching the run through and we hear gigantic laughs coming from these two bodies. So we knew it wasn't the network or the studio because they're just writing things down. And at the end of the run through, Tony Randall comes out and says, "Do you guys want to meet John Lennon and his son Julian?"
Wow.
And we said, yeah. And we all marched up the bleachers stairs to the last row.
Oh my God.
And we all walked past them one by one. And I got up to John Lennon and I shook his hand and I said, "What can I say? Thanks for the music." And he says, "Well, thanks for the laughs."
Oh,
Wow.
It was 1975. It was so cool.
Wow.
And I'll tell you, I think that day they must have wanted, Happy Days was studio, soundstage 20 and Laverne was 19 or vice versa. They were right next to each other. So I'm sure they just walked next door. The Happy Days or Odd Couple and Happy Days was next door.
Next door. Okay.
So
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, but my meeting with Lennon was in 75 after an Odd Couple run through.
Interesting.
It was great.
What can you tell a little, guys? Am I screwing up here? I keep asking. Can you talk a little bit about working with Jack Klugman and Tony Randall? What that was like?
The best. First of all, they're two pros.
Yeah,
they're great actors.
Amazing resumes before.
Amazing resumes before, and Klugman and I got along real well. Later on, I got to know Tony. Tony asked me to move to New York and do Love Sydney, that show he did with Susie Kurt.
Oh, yeah.
But Jack and I.
Be sure to mention, Marty, you went to Tony Randall's last wedding when he was about 70 and the wife was like 25.
No, I didn't go to his wedding, but I met his. I know his young wife.
Oh, you do?
I didn't go to the wedding. I didn't go to the wedding, but I got friendly with Heather Randall, who gave Tony 2 children.
Yeah.
But Jack and I would have dinner before the taping of the Friday show, and just sit there and talk and laugh and he was very much like Oscar, and Tony was very much like Felix.
Yeah.
I mean, the craft service guy on the set was a bookie. And Jack would bet horses with him all the time. And every time this guy, his name was Lou, and every time Lou would walk over to Jack and whisper in his ear, we'd pray that he won because he'd be in such a bad mood for the rest of the day. But Jack was Jack and Tony was Tony, and they were great. They were just so professional and so funny. And they did the rewrites with us. They would stay at night and sit around the table with us. We had so much laughs, so much fun.
Wow, really? They would work with you guys.
Yeah. And there was this guy, Jerry Belson, who passed away. But Jerry Belson and Gary were partners on Odd Couple, and Jerry was hysterical. And this guy, Harvey Miller.
Right.
Another guy. He wrote Private Benjamin, the movie.
Right.
But it was like it was the best of times. It was really great times.
Yeah. Now, Charlie, you've worked on a couple movies and different things. I saw when I was looking you guys up. You worked on Bernie. I thought that was such a great movie.
Yeah, that was fun. So I worked at Castle Rock for about 5 years, and I ended up being Rob's assistant at the end of it, which was awesome. So it became full circle. But I started on the bucket list.
Are you kidding? That's so cool. Wow.
Yeah. Well, it was funny because my dad called up Rob when I finished film school, and he was like, "Hey, my son's coming out. Can you help him out?" And he was like, "Yeah, call this guy." And then I called this guy, and he was like, "Call this girl." And then I called this girl, and then I got the job. But like Rob, like I could have just been lying. Like I got the job, and then one day, like day 20 of the bucket list, I was like, "Hey, Rob, I'm Marty's son." He's like, "Oh, I didn't know you were working." Like he just. But yeah, it was fun. Fun movie.
You worked on Bucket List?
Yeah, I was a production assistant, so I was just like helping to just staff the set, but that was an amazing movie to work on because they built like the Great Wall of China on Mulholland Drive, and the Taj Mahal was in Pasadena. Like everything was in LA, and they just like made up the whole world all around LA. It was hilarious.
Wow,
yeah.
That's cool.
Wow. Yeah.
Did you get to watch Jack and Morgan work at all? Did you get to see?
Yeah, all the time. I mean, you know, I was like a sound PA, so I was pretty close to the set. And
I love how
and it was
Morgan, like I'm good friends with both of them.
But it was awesome because Jack's contract was like he had to be able to go to every Laker game, and he didn't want to start before 11. So like every day was like 9 to 5, which is like unheard of for us.
Now you guys get the show together. You guys are out. You're doing the Q&As. Gary, what's the question that really threw you for a loop that you can't believe somebody asked? Is there any?
I'm trying to think. I mean, definitely around the Fonz and people threatening to commit suicide if the Fonz if Marty didn't get Fonzie on the phone with people, they were threatening to jump off the roofs and everything else.
No. Well, no. Let me. Could I just clarify that? Well, no. Yeah. What happened was, I mean, this is good behind the scenes stuff. I walked down to the set one day, and Henry was on the phone. There were 2 sheriff deputies next to him. And apparently some kid was going to jump off a roof if he didn't get a chance to speak to the Fonz.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
Now, they never publicized that because they didn't want copycats or anything like that. But can you imagine the pressure of Henry talking this kid down?
Yeah.
Which he did.
You know,
I mean, it's amazing. So little stuff like that you never hear about.
You guys are too young. Fonzie was through the roof huge. I mean, just so huge.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to witness that whole. I mean, he went from just being a small character on the show to being the biggest name in Hollywood, pretty much.
Yeah, he was big.
And it's just the idea that like
gentle, nice guy.
Yeah, he is. He seems like a really nice guy. The other thing that I thought was really cool about that, Marty, was Ron Howard's ability to handle it. That it really didn't seem to get in the way. It could have really destroyed that show, probably.
Well, go ahead.
Ron Howard was the star of the show.
The main character wasn't the most popular.
Yeah, and Henry Winkler blew up over him, and he could have walked. I mean, he was Ron Howard even then. He wasn't the director he is now, but he was. I mean, I felt like he handled from the outside. It seemed like he handled that really well. Gary Marshall always talked about how well Ron Howard handled.
Yeah, well, if I can give you a little backstory there.
Yes.
You're right. Henry had like 2 or 3 lines a show. That was it. He was supposed to be like this unique little character. And then all of a sudden the fan mail was coming in about Henry.
Yeah.
Tons of bags of fan mail. Who's that guy with the jacket, this and that? And the network went to Gary Marshall and they said, Gary, we've got to make Henry the main feature of the show. And Ron has to step back a little bit.
Yeah.
And Gary goes, okay. I mean, I understand some of that. And we want more stories about Henry. He goes, oh, okay, I'll talk to Ron about that. And they say, oh, yeah, and we want to call it Fonzie's Happy Days.
Wow.
Deal breaker.
Okay.
Deal breaker.
So Fonzie's Happy Days. So now Gary calls Ron into his office, says, here's the story. Henry seems to be taking off, so the network wants us to do like a little bit more Henry stories. He says, we're not going to do that. Because what they don't understand is that Amos doesn't work without Andy. You need both guys.
Yeah.
That's why you guys work so well together. You're friends, you're different kinds of people. He says, so we'll just put Fonzie in the title of the show sometimes. But you'll still be in the show a lot. And then the other thing is they want to call it Fonzie's Happy Days. So Ron said to Gary, let me talk to my management, my family, and I'll come back. So Ron comes back and says, look, I love the job. I love the show, but we just can't do Fonzie's Happy Days. It's like a slap in the face.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Yeah. So Gary went to the network and he says, okay, I had a talk with Ron. Everything's going to be good. We'll put Fonzie in a lot of stories. He says, but we can't call it Fonzie's Happy Days. They go, no, you got to call it Fonzie's Happy Days. And Gary said, well, who's going to produce the show? And they said, what? Well, I'm not going to produce Fonzie's Happy Days. I'm going to take Ron to NBC. Wow. And they went, I think it was probably in time, a quarter of a second, where they said, Happy Days is great. Great title. We love it. We love it.
I feel like it would have lost.
And you know what else Gary did? In Ron's deal, he always got $1 more than what Henry would get.
Yes. Yeah. I read that.
So every time Henry would go to renegotiate, Ron would go, give him hell. Give him hell, Henry.
Give him hell +1.
Yep.
That's great.
That's hilarious.
That's hilarious.
I think though, if they would have went and made Fonzie, made it about Fonzie, it would have lost all of the mystique, and I don't think it would have been as fun.
Oh, I think the smartest thing they did was the live audience, Marty. Was when they the format, and because in the beginning, correct me if I'm wrong, but in the beginning it was more like you just had the laugh track and there was no audience, right? And then
no audience, one camera like film. We filmed one camera film like a movie.
I could even tell you Fonzie's first line because he said,
"Hey,
played with her chest."
That was it.
And that because that was like a big deal in '74. Like people were up in arms over that line.
Yeah. Yeah. Could I just tell you one Happy Day story that involved me, and I won't talk for the rest of the show? My agent called me, and they said, this was like after I was there for like 2 years or something. My agent said they want you. See, I was an apprentice writer for Gary in the beginning for $95 a week. Then I was starting making Writers Guild money, but my agent called and said, they want you for head writer of Happy Days. I said, really? I said, yeah, $2,500 a week, 36 weeks.
Wow.
I said, okay. I said, I just need one thing. I need a parking spot on the lot because I'm still in the employees lot when I was working for Gary. And I was paying $40 a month, $10 a week to park. So if I'm going to be the head writer, all these guys have parking spaces with their names on it. Just get me a parking space. He calls me back. He says, they won't give you parking. I said, I pass. He said, what? I don't want the job. I won't have the job without the parking space. Marty, it's 25. I don't want the job without a parking space. So now what happens in show business, the agent calls back business affairs and tells them Marty says no unless you get the parking space. And business affairs then thinks about it. They call the agent calls you. Well, I got a call from business affairs the next day, which they never do. They never call talent. And if she was a lawyer, Shirley Stanky was her name. I'll never forget it. And she knew me because I would do the warm-up for the show, and they bring their kids. They liked me on Paramount. She goes, Marty, I got to tell you why you're not getting the parking, but we're going to pay for your parking now. You're still parking. I said, Shirley, forget it. She said, well, let me tell you why we can't give you a parking space. And this is all true. They closed all of the executive offices in Beverly Hills and built an executive building on the Paramount lot. So for all the executives now, they need the parking spaces. And I said, Shirley, let me tell you something. If you don't have scripts, you don't need executives. And she said, let me get back to you. And I got the parking space.
Why would they possibly not want to give up a parking space?
You should have
because that's their power. Everyone likes to have a power.
Yeah, of course. Of
That's
course.
my job is not to give Nadler a parking space.
Right.
He goes home, he tells his wife, Nadler wanted a parking space, didn't get it. What's for dinner?
Marty, you should have said you can keep the parking space. I want $1 more than Winkler.
Yes. No, I wouldn't. No, I'd had it. No, I'd turn that down. I wanted a parking space.
Did you threaten to jump off? Did you threaten to jump off the roof unless the Fonz get on the phone with you?
Yeah. The parking space was there a year after I left. I was at Warner Brothers doing Chico and the Man. I still had the parking space at Paramount. I used to go there and have lunch once in a while.
Is that spot still there, Marty? Because I need a parking space when I'm out there.
I think it's gone now. I'm sorry.
Is it needed for you?
I have one more Happy Days question, and then I promise I'll shut up. Marty, I read that an interview with Gary Marshall where he talked about Mork, and he said that a famous actor was supposed to play Mork and canceled the week the show was going to be shot, and that's how they ended up with Robin Williams. Do you know anything about that? And if so,
yeah, I was there. Yeah, I was there for that episode.
Who was the actor? We'll get to that. Don't worry. Oh, I'm going to make sure I talk to you about that. That must have been incredible. But do you know who the actor was you're talking about?
Well, there were two actors that Gary wanted. Gary wanted like a comic that did impressions. One of these old-time comics that did impressions, but he wasn't available.
Okay.
And then there was an actor hired that Richard. His first name was Richard. He was in Robin Hood with Tights. Remember the movie with
Richard Lewis?
No, it wasn't Richard Lewis. It was another Richard Dimitri. It was an actor named.
We just
Richard
had
Dimitri.
JD on.
Yeah, that's weird.
Richard Dimitri was hired to do Mark. He showed up Monday and Tuesday, and after the run through on Tuesday, he said to us, I don't get it. I don't get it. Nanu. I don't get it. I'm leaving. And we had a shoot on Friday. And Gary's other sister, Ronnie Howland, she was producer for the show.
Right.
She said, there's a guy at the Improv that came from San Francisco, and Gary says to her, well, who is it? His name's Robin Williams. He was a mime in San Francisco, and he would perform on the corner, and and Gary goes, I want to hire a mime to be more. and Ronnie Howland said to him, the hat was very filled that every night at the corner. He would fill the hat with money. So Gary went and checked him out at the Improv. He wasn't doing mime, he was doing stand-up, and Gary liked him, and that's what happened.
Talk about that day, that shoot. What was that?
The day we shot the pilot?
No, the more like the idea.
The Mark episode.
When Robin Williams came in, wasn't it a lot of it just him ad-libbing and going through?
Oh, yes. He blew everybody's mind. He had so much energy, he's all over the place. But the fun story is once they wanted him to do his own show, when they shot the pilot, we used the Odd Couple cameramen who were like veteran camera guys. They started off in movies years ago. And we did the pilot with Robin, and the A camera, the middle camera that got the wide shots, was a guy, Sam Rosen, was on the camera. So Gary was directing. We did the first scene of the pilot, and Gary yelled cut, and he looks at Sam, because Robin has so much energy. He was all over the stage.
Yeah.
And he looks at Sam, and he said to Sam, how did it look? And Sam goes, I never saw the man.
Didn't they hire like football cameramen?
They
follow
hired
action?
No, they had these guys, but they taught Robin how to act in a TV show. That tape on the floor, Robin, you got to stand on that.
Yeah.
I actually pulled photos of both.
But he was wild. He was wild to the Mark for Mark episode, and he was crazy on the Mark set.
I watched an episode the other day where he's completely upstaging Henry Winkler. And he's like right in front of him, and Henry Winkler's talking, and they left it in. I guess they just were like, well, that's the best we could do. I don't know.
They couldn't cover him any other way.
Yeah.
And you know who used to come and see?
Yeah.
A guy that used to come and watch almost every Mark episode was Christopher Reeve.
Well, they were best friends.
Christopher Reeve was Robin's roommate in Juilliard.
At Juilliard, yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Superman and the Crazy Man.
So cool, Marty.
Yeah. Robin was the best. He was so funny and also a good guy.
Now, so you worked on Chico and the Man as well?
Yeah.
Working with every famous comic ever.
I know. You worked with Red Fox, right?
I read.
Too many questions, Richie. He had enough.
Red Fox.
That was great.
Isn't that great stuff, though? Great stuff, right?
Fun. You guys must have a ball doing your tour.
It's awesome.
We really do. We really do.
Oh, your mom was in the business too, right?
Yeah, both my parents met on Laverne. She came in to pitch story ideas. So if that show had gotten canceled, I wouldn't be here.
Yeah, that's right.
So every time Laverne and Shirley starts up on TV, do you get a little nostalgic?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's like my birthplace.
Hearing your parents' song, like their wedding song, you get all excited.
But
Now,
you guys can understand why me sitting on the deck with Marty and Martha's Vineyard, and he's telling me, Richie, all these unbelievable stories. You can understand why I wanted to bring the show
Gary,
out.
I could go for another 3 hours with him.
I didn't go to Martha's Vineyard at all in 2020. I went out for no shows. I went out to sit on the deck with Marty for like another 4 hours and just pepper him with stories. Tell me about Squiggy. Tell me about Squiggy, Marty.
You should tell him
asked
about
that?
Red, though, Dad. You should tell him a Red Fox story.
Yes.
I got cut off with the Red Fox story.
Yeah.
Where was I?
You just
Red
said
Fox.
I worked with Red Fox.
I asked you about Red Fox. We wanted to talk about Chico and the Man, which there you go, Chico and the Man. But I saw that you also worked with Red Fox's show.
I worked with Red Fox. We're at a reading of the show, and Red comes to a joke, and he says the joke. He goes, "I hate this joke. Jokes like this drive me crazy." And then he points at me and he goes, "Did you write this joke?" And I really didn't write the joke, but I said, "Yes, I wrote this joke, and I wrote it to make you crazy." and we were like best buds after that. And who asked about Squiggy?
Gary.
That was me.
But
some Lenny and Squiggy stories never go wrong with that.
Been amazing to work. Michael McKean, Lander.
Michael McKean and I went to NYU together.
Really?
Graduate school, but Michael and I are okay. David Lander and I did not get along. We did not get along. He did not respect the writers.
Really?
And I didn't like that. And I actually threw a chair at him at a table. I missed him, and I hit a fruit bowl instead on the table. But everyone knew that we hated each other. They knew we hated each other. But at the rap party, Gary lets the writers roast the actors. So I got up that night and I said, "I would like to say something nice about David Lander." And there were gasps in the audience. And then I said, "But I'd rather have my dick cut off." And then there were screams. And then Rona Barrett called me. Remember her, the gossip columnist?
Yeah.
Rona Barrett called me the next day. "Did you really say these things?" Yeah, because I also said, "Penny, it's a pleasure to work for you, Penny. I like working for you because you could never sneak up on me because I can always hear your balls clanging."
Oh, that's fantastic.
Here's what's amazing to me about the story, and this is so comedy, guys, right? Of all the stars that came out of Gary Marshall's show, all the friggin' stars, who's the highest maintenance of all? Squiggy.
Yeah.
Squig.
Yeah. I was going to
Squiggy was high for me.
What? You're freezing up, Marty.
I went to high school with the kid who looked just like Squiggy, and we used to call him Squiggy.
Oh my God.
Poor kid.
I just think it's funny that I thought we were going to hear like Red Fox was an asshole. Instead, we got David Lander was an asshole.
He was an asshole. He was an asshole to me. I'm sure he was nice to other people, but I don't care. I
don't care.
That's Marty being very diplomatic.
Somebody doesn't like you, Marty. That's enough for me.
Yeah.
So what was it like working on the
Tuscadoro?
What was it like working on the set of Chico and the Man? I mean,
It was
what an incredible
good.
talent skyrocket and get cut short. I mean,
Yeah, what was it like watching that career?
well. I knew Freddie when he was,
The store, right?
in the improv.
Yeah.
He was like 17 years old.
Yeah, wow.
wow.
Yeah.
And then I mean, he was just this young kid doing comedy, and then he went on the Tonight Show and killed, and Sammy Davis Jr. was on the panel and loved him, and then NBC signed him to do a show.
Wow.
He went from taking the A train in New York to a red Corvette. They gave him a red Corvette to sign him.
Wow.
And the problem is he was just too young for all that success and everything, and it was great knowing him and working with him, but it was very sad. He was just what happens is a young guy like that gets surrounded by all these people that make money off of him, agents, publicity people, managers. So he's like a money machine. So they keep him working. If he ever wanted to go take a week off or not do something, no, you're hot now. You got to do it now. You got to do it now. And then they get rebellious when they're young. Oh, I'll show you. I'm going to take drugs and this and that. And he didn't kill himself. The gun went off accidentally.
Yeah.
He was always playing with the gun.
Yeah. We were talking backstage. Our good buddy DJ Hazard actually went to high school with him. He was younger than him, and he said they used to sneak out and try to go see him do stand up, and they'd try to sneak in with fake IDs to go watch him do stand up. And DJ's band opened for him a couple times.
Wow!
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's some good trivia. Wow.
He had another friend from Performing Arts High School that when Freddie died, he wanted to be a pallbearer. And they told him, no, they only want names.
Oh.
Wow.
That's not that really happened.
That and the other thing that, this is really a Richard Lewis story, because did you see the Comedy Store special on HBO?
Yeah.
I mean, if you watch the Freddie Prinze funeral thing, if you actually pause it, you could see me walking out of the chapel.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because we were all there for the funeral, and Richard was going to Forest Lawn in a limo with the network executives. This was the day of his funeral, and Richard Lewis was furious because all they were talking about in the limo was, what are we going to shoot next week?
Wow.
Man.
And that's cold. That's the town.
Wow. Yeah.
It's a very sad thing. Anyway, on the bright side, Freddie and I wrote a script together for Chico.
Wow.
And that was in 1975. And I got a residual check for that script 2 months ago. And that was 6 cents.
Hey.
6 cents. And they spent 48 cents to mail it to me.
Yeah.
And Charlie wants it.
I
make up his bond.
Well, you need that money to pay Charlie back for all the money you stole from him.
Put it on the tab.
Yeah, I will, Charlie. I'm thinking about paying you some of it back.
Thinking about it.
So when a show goes back into syndication, they go to put it like, Nickelodeon or whatever will pick Happy Days back up to run for another, the reruns. Is that exciting? Is like knowing that you have so many episodes?
Well, I actually, most of my episodes I was a staff writer on. I really wrote maybe 8 shows where at the beginning it says written by Marty Nadler, but I don't, then on the end credits, you see story editor, executive consultant, stuff like that. But the money goes down greatly over the years. Don't forget 1975.
Right.
So I'll get a check for Happy Days where all of my episodes show, and maybe the check would be for like $150, which is fine. I call it pillow money. I mean, I'm sleeping and I wake up and I go to the mailbox and there's a check there for $150. That's great. I'm not, I didn't have to do any more writing for it. It's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
Charlie, Marty, did you have any concerns about Charlie going into the business? Was it more?
Never. I never had any concerns about Charlie going into the business. But you have to broaden that out, because I had no concerns about Charlie because he was always a very bright kid and a very nice kid. And also, I'm the type of father that didn't say, you're going to be a baseball player when you grow up. I would approach Charlie and say, what do you want to do? We'll hope make it happen. He goes, well, I want to be in the basketball league this year. Good, let's do that. Well, how much is that? $25. Okay. So I try to be supportive of him, not try to direct him. And I never had any dreams of what I wanted him to be. But you know why that is? Because I didn't have a father. My father died when I was 3. And I was raised by my mom. So I didn't have any role model like that. I was on my own.
Yeah.
Oh God, this is getting to be like a therapy section. Sorry.
All right, let's get back to the wacky stories then. What out of all the shows you worked on was
we lost him again. He's gone.
So now, Charlie, you do a lot of writing?
Yeah. I still do a lot of screenwriting stuff and obviously stand up. And
I was gonna say, and you have a company that you work with your stand up, right?
Yeah, so it's called laughdealers.com. We do a lot of like ghostwriting originally, but lately during the pandemic, we've done a lot of virtual comedy shows and making digital video content for people, and it's been all right. It's been good to work during no live shows for a while.
What do you think? I don't understand. Explain it to me a little more, because I'm really stupid when it comes to this. So let's explain it.
Sure. Yeah. So basically, we will the bread and butter is doing it for a corporation. So like a company that wants to do a wellness event for their employees, they'll during lunch, we'll bring in like 4 or 5 comics, people you guys know in New York, and they'll just do little guest spots, and we'll do these little, they're basically like deep fake videos. We make these little digital impersonation hosts. So like a parody public figure, like The Rock will come on and introduce the comic, and it's been good. I mean, everyone is working remotely right now. So
comics are live though. They're not pre-taped.
They're live. They're live.
Because I know, do you know Moody McCarthy?
Yeah, I know him.
Moody did a show a few months back. He did one of those, and he was telling us that he was for Pfizer. And he was like, don't you guys have anything better to do than to listen to me right now? This is like last October.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot of corporations. We did one for a biotech company. There's there's some good opportunities there. It's refreshing because they don't ever have fun at their job. So to come in and laugh for 5-10 minutes before going back to hell is good for them.
I love it.
That's great, Charlie. Wow.
I missed last week. I was doing something out in Texas. We were shooting a cold opening, like a Saturday Night Live sketch. And then I'm going to host it, and they have a bunch of celebrities come in and talk. It's an end of year party for them. So they're a lot of fun, it's like, what else are people going to do when they have to work remotely?
Yeah, definitely. Well, and you don't have to commute to the gig. It's kind of nice to finish my set and then go into the kitchen.
I got another set. It's all the way over here.
It's at this IP address. Yeah.
But I've really enjoyed. I mean, it doesn't beat live at all, but I've been enjoying trying to do digital stuff and doing shows, and it's more of a writing exercise than it is a performing exercise, because you have to write for your thing, for whatever your gig is, and So I try to treat it as this is my writing exercise instead of my performing exercise.
Yeah, definitely. One thing that's really nice is I'll just put my set list up like on top of my laptop, so I don't have to memorize my set list anymore every day. 30, 40 minutes.
You know what I found too during the pandemic is the Zoom shows. The audience is so much more forgiving. And they're so happy that you're performing that they're like there for you, and they're and unlike when you're in a club and they're like, make me laugh, asshole. But you know what I mean? And like suddenly you're doing a Zoom show and you don't even have that feel for it. And they're all like, yeah, you got this. Yeah.
I want to give a shout out, a quick 5-minute warning. We have Tom, you are so like you and I together on the same. We have a 5-minute warning. We have a hard out at 4 because we will have Gary Allen's show, Main Street's coming on with Jeffrey Mark. And just a quick reminder, when we go off, just hit the refresh button and you will see Gary and it'll start back up. Okay, back to the show.
Gary actually had Anson Williams on his show a few weeks ago, Marty, talking about Happy Days.
Oh, really? He's a good guy. I've seen him recently.
He told the story about how what's his name's his uncle, Dr. Heimlich. Yeah, and
yes.
Yeah, and he was at Merv Griffin, and Heimlich was in the audience, and Heimlich showed Merv the move. And that's what set it all off and made Heimlich maneuver so popular.
That's amazing.
Because Merv Griffin, during a commercial, Heimlich showed the move to Merv Griffin. Merv Griffin came back from commercial and had him come up and do it. Johnny Carson's brother was Merv's producer. He called Carson and I think that's how it went, and got him on the Tonight Show. And Heimlich, that's how the whole thing, thanks to Anson Williams being on Merv Griffin. I just thought that was hysterical. It's a great story.
We're gonna have Anson come on and surprise you, but unfortunately, I got so tied up doing that thing in Texas that I never got a chance to call the agent and try to make it happen. But I wanted to surprise you.
That would have been nice.
Marty, did you play in the softball games?
No.
No.
They wanted me to. I'm not very athletic, but they would tease me. They go, well, it's healthy. It's good exercise. And then they'd play Saturdays or Sundays. And then Monday morning, they'd come in with crutches and casts on their legs. I said, look, I see you guys 5 days a week. I want to be home on the weekend. I don't want to see you. But we did get a chance. Charlie's mom and I went to the Candlestick Park once because they would do these softball games also for charities and before the regular game. So we got a chance to go to San Francisco for the weekend. The Giants paid for the whole thing. It was great. Wow. It was great. They flew us up there, put us up, took us out to dinner. We were there at the game. It was fun. So, but no, Charlie is the athlete. He gets his mom was more athletic when she was young. Charlie's pretty athletic. He plays tennis and golf, and he's good.
Yeah, I'm athletic for like what you think I would be. Like I'm not, like you look at me and you're like, oh my God, this guy can actually like shoot a basketball. So I look in comparison.
Charlie, you know what I love? I read about that you worked on Kashmir Mafia, and they named one of the characters Charlie Nadler.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It is a great mob name. I got to tell you, it just really is.
The Jewish mob.
I'm gonna go call the Nadlers. You're in big trouble now. Gary Marino's driving them.
So when do you guys have any shows coming up?
We do, yeah. We're Cape Cod, Seacrest Hotel on July 24th. And we're on the Vineyard that week as well. Those are our first shows coming back after the pandemic with the Happier Days show.
Mark, we may have to do a little road trip, brother.
I know, I'm down.
I would love to go watch these guys do this.
I know, I would I'd really love to join you guys. And let's we'll all stay connected.
Yeah, you know what would be great, especially since it's not till July, if we could bring the round table live to them and doing it. We could bring them back on our show, and then
That was fun.
yeah,
It'd be a lot of
I
fun.
can tell you, tip of the iceberg today with Marty's stories, and then Charlie growing up around all this has some great ones too. So tip of the iceberg, really. You know,
I would love to just sit in with you guys and just be a fly on the wall hearing these stories. It's so much fun.
I like that idea, Richie. If you guys can pull it off, absolutely. All
Okay.
over. But we're also impressed.
Charlie, do you do a lot of work in New York anymore, or do you come into New York and do gigs?
Yeah, I mean, this last year, obviously, a little bit of different story, but yeah, no, I still have so many good friends there, and
Yeah, you gotta let us know when you're in town. Marty, do you still do stand up, or are you still doing, or you just do the specialty show?
No, yeah. I far as stand up is concerned, I'm just concentrating on trying to do it with this show. I mean, I don't want to be on the road. I mean, I like to be on the road with Charlie. I get a chance to see my son.
That's
so
cool.
I'm not trying to do a stand-up career. I'm not trying to do any career. And I mean, I did a career. I mean, I just executive produced a movie this year.
Really?
I mean, yeah. I mean, it was like given to me. It's a nice movie. I'm not gonna say great movie. It is a very good movie. It's with Judd Hirsch and Carol Kane and Sean Astin.
Oh, what a great cast!
It's called I'm Mordecai. It's a very good script. And I consulted on the movie, and the director made me producer director made me executive producer for the movie.
Wow!
And so I did that. I can't believe it. The only reason I'm happy about it is because when it plays in L.A. and my credit goes on, they're going to go, Nadler's alive? He's still alive? Jeez.
Well, guys, we're definitely going to stay in touch. Maybe Gary, maybe we could set up an email, all of us on the same email. And I would just love this. Come and hang with you guys. I'm also tonight. I'm working a gig at the Great American Pub in Phoenixville, Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
but
I was there 2 weeks ago.
I'm going to talk to the guy because he's going to be running shows at the Valley Forge Casino, and maybe we can get you guys in there. So
that would be great.
Thank you.
It'd be awesome because then I would be a half hour away to go see you.
Yeah. Well, this was a lot of fun today, guys.
Marty, thank you so much. Gary, Charlie, you guys. Wow, what a great show. I mean, really great.
Thanks, guys. Fun.
Yeah.
So
we'll keep in touch, and we'll definitely have you back.
We'll have you back on, but let's hopefully work together soon. Don't sign out when we close. But folks, that was the Roundtable. Thank you for joining us. Click refresh. You can watch Gary Allen on Main Street, and he's on with Jeffrey Marks. So please check that out. That was the Round.